Hi everyone, I'm Michaela. I'm a Minnesota Green Corps member with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and today I'm at the Northside Residents Redevelopment Council to give you an overview of how to compost in your garden space. Composting is an awesome way to repurpose yard waste and food scraps in your garden and to create something that's really beneficial for your garden soil. Adding compost can improve your soil's microbe activity, improve its moisture retention, improve soil texture, and also prevent nutrient runoff or soil erosion. It really is a win-win to reuse garden waste and also create something super beneficial for your garden. So I'm excited to share what I've learned today with you all about composting. So you have a few different options for compost bin types when you're setting up your own composting system. To pick the type that's best for you, you'll want to think about your budget, your space limitations, and the desired aesthetic of your garden. One option is to purchase a commercially available compost bin that's specifically designed for backyard or garden use. These bins are great for gardeners who want a neat aesthetic in the garden and are willing to spend a little bit more to get it. Another option is to construct your own compost bin out of wire, bricks, or wood pallets. These bins are great because they allow you to reuse materials you may already have lying around and can be customized to match the rest of your garden. Getting students involved in building your compost structure can also be a really fun activity for the garden. Some bins are set up in a 3-chambered system. These bins allow you to easily track several compost piles at a time that are at varying stages of decomposition. Piles are periodically turned over into adjacent chambers until you have finished compost at one end and fresh compost at the other. It's also possible to have an open-air compost pile with no retaining structure. This is not recommended for most garden spaces, as open piles tend to have a messier appearance and do not warm as efficiently as other styles, but it can be an option, especially if your garden is located in a rural area. To select a location for your compost bin, you'll want to pick somewhere that's easily accessible, that you can get to pretty easily. Also somewhere that's close to a water source, because you will have to water your bin periodically through the decomposition process. Somewhere with a stable temperature is also great. Obviously these bins are outside, so there's only so much that's within your control, but try and pick a space in your garden that has a relatively stable temperature. You can put your compost bin in the shade or in direct sunlight, both are fine. If you choose to put your bin in direct sunlight, the pile will decompose faster because of the extra heat, but it will also dry out faster, so just make sure you're checking in frequently and watering periodically. Now that you've thought about which bin style is right for you and a good location for your compost pile, let's talk about what will actually go into your pile. So every compost pile is made up of 4 main ingredients: brown plant materials, green plant materials, oxygen, and water. So browns, or brown plant materials, are things that are rich in carbon. So things like dried leaves, twigs, woody yard waste, shredded paper or cardboard, wood chips, or straw. And then greens, or green plant materials, are things that are rich in nitrogen. So things like food scraps, grass clippings, weeds from your garden, coffee grounds, eggshells, things that are those fresh green materials. There are certain things that never belong in your backyard compost pile. So things like meat, dairy, herbicide-treated plants, noxious weeds. So weeds are okay, but not if they're on the Minnesota Noxious Weeds list. And other things that are treated with pesticides, don't put those in your backyard compost. Even if they are from natural sources, the backyard compost just doesn't get hot enough to handle a lot of those materials. So building a successful compost pile relies on balancing the 4 main ingredients that I just mentioned, which are browns, greens, water, and oxygen. In your pile, you'll always want to have more brown material than green materials. A good ratio to shoot for is either a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio of brown to green materials, and that will help your pile decompose at a faster rate and also prevent any foul odors while your pile decomposes. To start a new compost pile, you'll want to start by laying down a thick 6-inch layer of brown materials, so something like dried leaves or wood chips or straw. This layer will help absorb excess moisture as you continue to build your pile and also provide some airflow for underneath your pile. Next, you'll layer on a 3-inch layer of greens, or those nitrogen-rich materials. To boost the nitrogen content of this layer, You can optionally add some high nitrogen fertilizer or another garden amendment that's high in nitrogen. And then you can finish off your layers by sprinkling in some garden soil or finished compost. This is an optional step, but adding soil or finished compost can help boost the microbe activity of your pile, which can help speed things along as you're just starting out. Then you're going to want to water these layers in until they're moist but not soggy. You can repeat this sort of lasagna of brown materials, green materials, and then optional garden soil or finished compost, making sure you water after each repetition. Keep stacking those layers until your compost pile is 3 to 5 feet tall, and your finished compost pile should again be moist but not soggy and have a good ratio of brown to green materials. Once you've started your compost pile, you'll have to do some occasional maintenance to keep your microbes happy and your pile decomposing. You'll want to turn your pile over once or twice a month. Turning the pile basically means mixing everything up with a shovel to move material from the inside of the pile to the outside of the pile. This keeps the decomposition rate stable, as the inside of the pile will be a lot warmer and decomposing a lot faster than the outside of the pile. You'll also want to water your compost pile periodically to prevent it from drying out. The frequency you water will depend on the pile's location, if it's covered or not, and the weather. It's okay to just water with a watering can or a hose as needed. In about 2 to 4 months, you'll have a finished compost to use in your garden. You'll know your compost is ready to use because it'll look like garden soil and also have a sort of sweet, earthy smell. Your pile will also be significantly smaller than the materials you started out with because things have been breaking down and decomposing over the course of those several months. Odds are you'll continue to accumulate brown and green organic materials long after your compost pile has been started. It's generally best practice to start a completely new pile if you have a lot of fresh material that you would like to compost. If you add fresh material to an existing pile, that can sometimes derail the decomposition rate of your pile. It's not a complete no-no, but if you are adding fresh material to an existing pile, you do want to make sure you're maintaining that correct ratio of brown to green plant materials. The 3-chambered compost bin design that I talked about earlier can be a really compact way to manage several compost piles at the same time. Otherwise, you can just recreate your first one with fresh material as needed. So there we have it. I hope today's video was helpful for you to learn the basics of starting your own compost pile. Composting can be such a rewarding endeavor in the garden to both reduce yard waste and also make something really valuable for your garden space. So I hope that you feel inspired to start your own compost pile and try out composting in your own garden.